Hey everybody, welcome to the Logan Power Show. It's me, your host, Calvin Logan, and we are having another marvelous day at the Logan Power Show. I brought with me a gentleman. He's a mentor, getting his first time here in the Logan Power Show. We've been trying to get him together, but we finally got him in the building. The one and only Mr. Kelly Simmons III. How you doing, sir?
Brother, outstanding, man. Brother Calvin, outstanding, man. No complaints here, brother. Blessed. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I say you can look at that good air behind you. Like I said, you in that good part of town.
Absolutely. Absolutely, man. We in God's country, brother. Yeah.
People know about God's country is good time. That's good time. Good fresh
Yes,
air.
sir. Yes,
All
sir.
right. Well, let's talk about yourself. You are a highly motivated mentor. You help out a lot with our youth. You want to see an impact differently. I know with the COVID-19, things are changing. It's ever evolving where you have to come up with new strategies, new ideas to get the young people involved. Tell us a little bit about how you got started becoming a motivating mentor and making impact in people's lives.
Yeah, well, it started, man, when I was, in Anderson. I'm from Anderson, South Carolina, country boy. And I just saw where mentorship and mentoring had an impact on my life. I was in Boy Scouts and, that was back in the day where, if you were in the Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, you could sleep at the school, you know. And so I had mentors in my life, all throughout my life, even in college and when I went into the business realm and market, I always had someone mentoring and I love it. And so I saw the impact that it had on my life. Of course, I had my father, there. He was a pastor. And so, when you had to go to church, man, whether it was deacon so-and-so or or brother so-and-so, someone was always wanting to give you advice and encouragement and mentor you. And, I appreciated that. And so, wanted to give that back. That's how we were raised, about serving and giving back. And so, being a first generation college grad and going through the military, doing a lot of different things, I had to learn on my own, right? But then at the same time, like I said, the power of mentorship, having somebody there to echo and bounce things off, we just wanted to give that back to kids. And so we've been doing this now. I mean, I've been mentoring probably well over 25, 30 years. And
Wow.
so, so we love doing it, me and my wife. So
I got it. It's
yeah,
a powerful two-part team. Y'all don't play.
that's right. That's
Y'all,
right. That's
y'all
right.
don't play.
That's right. That's
Um,
right.
because you are a veteran like myself, I know the military gives you certain strategic discipline,
Mm-hmm.
certain qualities that makes things a little bit more easier to balance your life.
Mm-hmm.
How's that transition been for you? Like, I'm a veteran and now I'm
Mm-hmm.
mentoring the youth. How has
Mm-hmm.
that transition shift impacted how you teach the youth?
Well, one thing, it's kind of like, military, man, you're voluntold, what, what to do, what to do. You don't really have an option, because of the way that the rank structure, is. But, I was fortunate where I was on both sides. I was enlisted and I was an officer. And so, being in the trenches and knowing how that grunt life works, being able to become an officer, you have a greater respect, and your peers and your subordinates, they have respect for you because they know that you've been in their shoes, right? And so, it was the same to a certain extent in terms of the how to build relationships, build trust, and you start that mentoring relationship, and it kind of blossoms from there. So again, how do we do that? Well, one of the things about mentorship that's key is that sometimes the mentor feels that they have all the answers, and typically that's what mentoring is about. How can you take your experience, your advice, and your knowledge and pour that into someone else? And I actually, Calvin, has kind of switched, and I've kind of taken more of a coaching approach. And the reason why, like I said, in the military is a little bit different, but as I've been working with kids, one of my, I guess you can say, secrets is I try to find out, what that particular child or what that particular young man, young lady, what is it that they want to do with their life? What's important to them, and what are they passionate about? And then we build that mentoring, that coaching role and relationship around that. And so it's just a beautiful thing, because, you have different spectrums of the game when it comes to at-risk youth. All of our youth are at risk. It doesn't matter if you're in a well-to-do neighborhood or you in the, the projects. All of our kids are at risk at something. And so, again, and all of us have dreams. All of them have goals and things of that nature, passions, desires. And we try to find that and build a relationship around that. And so it's a little bit more strategic where, again, you have boundaries from a military perspective. And so, where you're able to kind of transition, same discipline, because it requires patience, it requires, leadership, it requires selfless service, all of that. But, you're able to reach them on a kind of broader platform, broader perspective, when you're doing it on the civilian side.
Absolutely. Now, I like how you said that every kid is at risk, and I want to echo that to the highest level possible. Due to the fact is that with this COVID-19, if you're a parent and you're at the house, your child is at risk of having a failing education those last 3 months. So it's not like, oh yeah, this kid is a higher risk than the other. No, if it's all up now, it's up to the parent to put in that type of work. So since you focus a lot on not labeling a child and you use more of your you have like a selfless type of mentality. I don't care like what walk of life you came in. I just want to make a difference.
That's right.
How has the receiving been from the parents? I know a lot of times when you're teaching a young person, the parents gotta say they want to get on board. What the actual type of you be receiving from them? What kind of feedback you've been getting from parents? Say you taught my child, and then they've gotten from this.
Yeah, recently, actually, it's been great, and we've mentored in schools, in the community, through other faith-based initiatives, churches, things of that nature. And what's interesting, and I'll be real quick about this, is that as you can see, I'm wearing this KS3 Homestead gear. I'm out here working on the homestead, but what happened is that I started gardening. Right. And I grew up doing those things. And, as we're growing up, we have a tendency of trying to leave where we came from in the past. We get a little degree, get a little education. And so, now we rolling in the Mercedes, the BMW and all this other kind of stuff. And during the pandemic, it really, because we were in the middle of getting ready to start our mentoring initiative. And what happened, we had to kind of change that. And so what's happened, with our gardening here at our homestead, we actually are in the process of starting what we call the KS3 Junior Homesteaders, which is a mentoring initiative that just happened organically. And these are typically homeschoolers that are coming, and their parents are bringing them. So
wow.
these little guys can't, they don't have a driver's license. And so what happened, we've been sharing videos and parents have seen it. We've had kids that come out that have autism and have had no problems, and they've just enjoyed nature, enjoyed gardening, getting on the nature trail. And so what happens is that with that type of involvement with the parent, it makes your job easier. Because
yes.
I don't care who is mentoring. One of the biggest challenges that any mentoring organization has is that when that child is with you, right, and you're trying to give them all of these tools and resources and dreams and visions and support and all that, and if they go back home and they don't have any structure or any discipline, then everything that you've instilled and imparted is somewhat challenged. I'm not gonna say it's diminished because it is seed sown, but again, you do have parents that are not as involved, and and again, that's another subject. I don't know if we want to talk about it tonight, but this morning, man, it's just one of those things that parental involvement helps. But then here's the key: we make sure that we're not the parent. We're just trying to help and supplement what the parent should already be doing.
Got it. Yeah, oh yeah, absolutely. You're making plenty of sense. I think that's people understand the power of gardening, the power of I said we said God's country. When you're in God's country, it teaches survival skills. It teaches you the importance of, like, I don't know anybody else, but gardening learning how to make your own will
Mhm.
take a whole nother, that's a whole nother perspective where you can say, okay, well, if I know how to make it myself, then
Right.
I know what a good cucumber looks like. I can tell you what a good watermelon look like. I can say, well, hey, that's a bad orange because I grew
Mhm.
that back in my garden. Or I can tell you
Right.
what a bad tomato look like because I
Right.
tried it, but I
Right.
failed miserably. So I can tell you when I go to the grocery store and I feel it, but then I put some pressure on it. You smell your stuff. Like, make sure, hey, does it smell good? Are actually cleaning it? You see, like, well, man, you didn't
Mhm.
clean it right, because I know when I got my stuff from the garden, I think I washed that thing 8,000 times.
Right.
That thing,
Right.
so,
Right.
so those are the type
Right.
of the things we learn.
Right. Because you get out of it what you put into it. And so so there's a and we've just seen kids light up because we have chickens and different things out here, and they forget about the cell phone, they forget about video games, and that's one of the things that we're accomplishing with this initiative here, is to get kids back outside, get them out in the nature, and and enjoy those things that God has put in place for us to enjoy.
Absolutely. Now, because you've been so successful in this, what I call this home initiative, this home change of this COVID-19, you found a way
Yeah.
to be able to get people to start trusting, coming back outside, trusting,
Mhm.
um, getting back in the elements, trusting to saying like, hey, we got to get back outside. We can't just be in the house for
Yeah.
8 months, a year, year and a
That's
half,
right.
and it's
That's
not
right.
gonna work. And
That's right.
the reason why I tell people that, like, listen, I don't know the situation. We don't know what's going on with this COVID-19. We don't know, but let's be straightforward with you. If you stayed in your house for a year, if your whole body just stayed in the house for a year, I
Mhm.
promise to God, if you stepped outside after that year, you'd probably be in shock. Just of the
Mhm.
sunlight, the change, just getting
Right.
out there, because your body's like, man,
Right.
I ain't
Right.
smelled outside and I don't know how
Right.
long, so I don't know how
Right.
it feels. All I
Right.
feel is AC or heat or whatever they
Right.
have inside, but
Right.
the elements are now coming back into me, so that is
Mhm.
you definitely want to get connected. So,
Mhm.
what are some good qualities of how to be successful mentor? And the reason why I ask that is because you see people say like, yeah, I'm a mentor, but
Mhm.
they don't have any foundational skills. It's horrible. Or
Mhm.
that the delivery is more of a they have a kid who's an introvert, but they're an
Mhm.
extrovert, so that the
Mhm.
base is totally off. Or, like, for instance, you got a kid that's hands on, but you,
Mhm.
you have another kid who may not be hands on, but you're trying
Mhm.
to teach them hands on skills, and you don't know the child, you don't know who you're mentoring. So, what are
Mhm.
successful steps in becoming a great mentor like yourself?
Well, I think, I thank God, man. I don't consider myself great. I just consider myself passionate about it. And what we found, one, my wife and I, we realized that we could not just do it by ourselves, right? Depending on what level, let me say that and qualify that. Depending on what level of mentorship, if you're talking about mentoring, 12, 15, 30 plus kids and things of that nature, you got different, first of all, identifying what type of mentoring do you want to do. Is it one-on-one? Is it group? Is it community? And once you find out, kind of what you feel like you're best suited for, you may be suited to go into a school and just do a read along, or like what we're doing, utilizing, social media platform and mentoring that way. But I think number one is training. Kind of goes back to my military. you know,
Got it.
training is important because, again, some people may just have a great desire. Hey, I want to make a difference, but then you can go in and do more harm than you can to help the situation. First, you got to decide, okay, am I committed to this? Because one thing with starting working with children, working with youth and mentoring, they want to know if you're going to show up. And so when you start looking at those different dynamics of the mentor, the training is important because you got to know what you're working with. You got to know the individual. You got to look at work schedule. You got to look at, like you said, interest. If you got a kid that's a gamer, right? and you a bookworm, that may not necessarily be a good fit. Or if you got a kid that likes comics, right, and you like to read, well, that might be a match. And so identifying, who is a good mentor, who would be a good mentor, what type of mentorship training is very, very important. The second thing is really, and there are a lot of resources, that are out here. Sometimes with mentoring, you feel like, you're on an island by yourself. I know there's SC Mentors. I think they're based out in Charleston. That's right here in the Carolinas. They got a Facebook page, social media. There are a lot of tools. You got mentor.org, the national program. There are a lot of resources that can help you if you want to, like I said, do one-on-one, or if you want to do group. But that curriculum, I think that's helpful. If you have tools to help you, I wrote a curriculum that we use. It's called Discovering Who I Am. And I just learned that from being in the sales industry, is that here it is, you have a kid, you don't have a relationship with them, and you got to build that. And the only way that you can build a solid relationship is by fact finding out what they like, what color they like. We had this great idea. We're going to go and mentor, and you start sharing all this information. That kid is not even worried about nothing you're talking about, nor do you know anything about them that they like. It's
Yes.
simple. It's really simple. It's have a general conversation. So again, building that relationship, and then, you can start adding different tools. If you want to do a mission statement, or if you want to, they're interested in going to college, or, maybe they're interested in video games, start using what it is that the mentee or that particular child likes, and you build a relationship from there.
Got it. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Getting down to the close, how
Yeah.
can people get in contact with you?
Well, they can go to the KS3, the KS3 Homestead, on all of our social media platforms, and Empowered to Win. We have that initiative as well. That's another company that I have, where we provide career and leadership development for students and for professionals. And so we do mentorship on that side, and we do mentorship on the KS3 side. And again, it's just about giving back. And so Empowered to Win, ETW training, the KS3 Homestead on all social media platforms. And that's how they can reach us.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Final thought here is based off of what's going on in society.
Mhm.
Um, how can we reach our youth of today?
Well, I think reaching our youth, and I'll just say this, is that I think ministry starts at home first. If you have kids, you have children, spend time with them. I like to call that the low-hanging fruit, and begin to build that relationship, and then start branching out. And when you look at your circle of influence, it could be schools, it could be within your community, your neighborhood, um, your church. We're using Zoom and all these different types of platforms. Hey, and I mean, at our church, we're having Zoom meetings weekly, and we have a monthly Zoom meeting with all of our young men, and we get them on the Zoom call just to check in and see how they're doing. It's really not rocket science. So, reach out to those, maybe relationships, parents that you have, friends that you have, and they have children that are not doing anything, and you just want to kind of reach out to them. So, that's where you can start, because again, with the schools, and this is just one of the challenges, I know it's the final thought, but schools are really not allowing outsiders in, just because of the pandemic and things that are going on. So again, those that maybe have a desire to mentor, I don't want them to get discouraged. That's why I say look around you and work with what you have,
Abs-
especially your supporting agencies.
Absolutely. So it's time for us to look around. It's time for us to check the scope out and find
Yeah,
direct targets that we need to focus on. Know your audience, so that
yeah,
you be very effective. And we want to be effective today. So everyone who's watching, again, Mr. Kelly Simmons III, one of the most dynamic mentors I know so far. Just follow him, see what he does. He's very active in the community. Someone you want to bring into your community to be able to help out with the youth. And hey, that's what we got to do, make an impact.
absolutely.
Today is not promised. Tomorrow's not promised. Today is one step at a time. Yesterday is thrown into the wolves, so you got to move forward. So let's move forward, let's make a difference. That's all the time I got. My name is Calvin of the Logan Power Show, nationwide, worldwide. We love you. See you soon.